In our previous lectures, we discussed about the poverty, and in today's lecture, we are going to discuss the poverty reduction strategy of the Government of India, or poverty alleviation strategy of the Government of India. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss this. So first of all, let me discuss a little about the social sector, right? So, and how the performance of social sector affects the level of poverty in a country, in an economy, right? First of all, let us discuss a little about this social sector. So, as far as the social sector is concerned, this is a very common term, social sector, which you all might have heard. Social sector involves a lot many things, which include the education, health, medical care, water supply, sanitation, housing, and some poverty alleviation, you can say measure, right? So because social sector and poverty both are linked to each other, right? Improved performance of social sector leads to the reduction in poverty, and the poor performance of social sector leads to the rise in poverty, right? Basically, poverty brings poor performance in the social sector, and poor performance in social sector feeds the poverty further. So that is why both are interrelated, poverty and social sector. So no program or policy of the government can be successful until and unless the government is paying the due attention to the social sector improvement or to the development of the social sector in the economy. Right? So as far as the government of India is concerned, we know that poverty is a chronic problem of Indian economy. Even before the independence of India, India was reeling under poverty, and after the independence of the country, also India is reeling under the poverty, right? Despite India is having such a vast potential of growth and development, India is having, you can say, such a variety of very rich natural resources also. But due to some factors which may be the social issues, which may be the some political factors, there can be some other factors due to which the Indians are still reeling under poverty. Means majority of the Indians are still reeling under poverty, right? So the government of India has a, you can say, worked out or has planned or is working on a three-pronged strategy for the to address the social sector, right? So let me start it from here. Three-pronged strategy of the government to address the social sector. Three-pronged strategy of the government to address the social sector. So as far as this three-pronged strategy of the government is concerned, the three-pronged strategy includes number one, that is called the broad targeting, right? Broad targeting. This is the one thing. And number two, that is called the narrow targeting, narrow targeting. And number 3 is called the social security. Number 3 is called the social security. Okay. So this is, we can say, the three-pronged strategy of the government of India or the government to address the social sector, right? So we will discuss these three wings of the this strategy of the government, right? So first we are going to discuss the broad targeting, right? So as far as the broad targeting is concerned, first we will discuss about the broad targeting. Okay. So as far as the broad targeting is concerned, broad targeting, right, relates with the, or it includes the various programs. Broad targeting includes the various programs and sub-programs of the government, various programs and the sub-programs of the government, right, for the overall, and comprehensive development of the country, right, and comprehensive development of the country, right? So development of the country, right? So it is not focusing on a particular section, on a particular group, on a particular individual, right? So means the broad targeting includes all those programs and plans of the government, policies of the government, which are for the overall and comprehensive development of the country, right? So this is what we mean by the broad targeting, right, of the government. So in this broad targeting, or we can say that the various programs and sub-programs under the broad targeting include, various programs under the broad targeting include, right? So the various programs under the broad targeting, I am going to make a list here of those programs, right? So one is the, that is known as the Awaas Yojana, right? After that we will discuss these programs also. One is that, and the second program is, that is the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, that is the second program, and the third program is the midday meal scheme, right? And the third program under the broad targeting, that is Manreka, okay? And the fifth program under the broad targeting, that is the total sanitation campaign, that is that. And the sixth uh, program under this is JNNURM, Jawaharlal Nehru, right, National Urban Renewal Mission. That is what we mean by the JNNURM. And the seventh program is the ICDS, Integrated Child Development Scheme, right? And the eighth program under this is, that is the National Rural Health Mission, NRHM. And the ninth program, we can say that Rajiv Gandhi Drinking Water Scheme, Rajiv Gandhi Drinking Water Scheme, right? So these are some of the schemes, drinking water scheme, right? So which are a part of the broad targeting of the government, right? So now we are going to discuss these programs one by one. Some of the programs we will discuss today, and the rest of the programs we will discuss in tomorrow's lecture, right? So this part of the lecture is very much important, right? Because it has relevance in various papers of the general studies. So first of all, what we are going to discuss today, that is the Indira Awaas Yojana. Indra Awaas Yojana. Indra Awaas Yojana. This is the first program. Okay. So as far as the Indra Awaas Yojana is concerned, so first thing is that Indra Awaas Yojana is a scheme, right, of providing the right housing to the rural people. One is that this is a scheme specifically for the rural India. So this point is very much important. Please bear this in mind. And the second important point under this scheme is that initially the scheme was for the SC ST population and the free bonded labor, right? The free bonded laborers or the free bonded labor. So initially the scheme was for those people, right? So two important points in this scheme, right? Both the points are very much important points. Please don't ignore these points. Number one, the scheme is for the rural India. Number two, initially the scheme was for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes population and the free bonded laborers, right? So now the important point is that the scheme was launched in 1985, right? So next thing is that the scheme was launched in 1985, right? So as I have told you that initially this scheme was for the SCST and free bonded laborers only, right? But later on, some other sections of the people were also added in this scheme, right? So those people who were added to this scheme, those were the one is the non SC/ST poor people, non SC/ST poor. One is that, and the second is the widow or next of kin of or next of kin of defense personnel, right? Kin of defense personnel killed in action or ex-servicemen, right? Ex-servicemen or paramilitary forces right? Who wanted to live in rural India, because the scheme is specifically for the rural India only, right? So again, I am telling you, right? So it means who are eligible under the scheme, right? Who can avail the benefit from the scheme? Those are the SC/ST, non-SC/ST poor, and widows or next of the kin of defense personnel killed in action or ex-servicemen, right? Or paramilitary forces defense personnel, right? So this is the main point here, right? So uh, please bear this in mind that for whom the scheme has been made by the government of India, right? So the next thing is that is the purpose of the scheme. Okay. Next is the purpose of the scheme, right? So as far as the purpose of the scheme is concerned, let me tell you, right? So what is the purpose of the scheme? So as far as the purpose of the scheme is concerned, the first purpose is, we can say, to provide financial assistance, right? To provide financial assistance to some of the, right? To some of the some of the weaker, some of the eligible, okay, some of the weaker sections of the society, some of the weaker sections of the society, okay, for any widow or widow of defense personnel only, I'm telling you, okay, to provide financial assistance to some of the weaker sections of the society. All right, so this is there. So the next thing is that, right? So financial purpose for what purpose? Sorry, financial assistance for what purpose? There are two important points here, right? Assistance for what purpose? One is we can say the upgradation of the houses, right? One is the upgradation of the houses. One point is that, right? And the second important point under this is that that is the construction of right, construction of the house, right? You can say of respectable quality, house of respectable quality for their personal living, right? It's not that you want to give the house on rent because you are having another house, right, to live in, and you want another house. No, only one house. The person should not be having any other house. Only then the person shall be eligible for eligible under the scheme, right? So what is important here, the main point is that the scheme is to provide the financial assistance, right? To whom? To the weaker sections who have been discussed above, right? For what purpose? For upgradation of the houses, we can say, right? And for construction of the new houses, right? Houses of respectable quality, this is mentioned here, right? And for what purpose? Houses should be for the personal living only. It means only one house is allowed, right? For the personal living. That is the point. Okay. So this is there. Okay. So what is the amount of assistance which is given into the scheme? Right. So as far as the amount of assistance is concerned, which is given under the scheme, right? So amount of assistance is rupees 1,20,000 for construction of house, rupees 1,20,000 in plain areas, okay, and rupees 1,30,000 in hilly areas. So this is the assistance by the government. Rupees 1,30,000 in hilly areas. This is the amount of assistance which is provided by the government under the scheme, right? So initially, right? So initially, there was the target of the government. Initially, there was the target of the government to upgrade all kacha houses in rural India, right, into pakka ones by 2017, right? So this was the initial target of the government, that by the year 2017, all the kacha houses in the rural India would be upgraded into the pakka houses. So this was the initial target of the government. Okay, initial target of the government, right? So what type of question can be asked to you in your UPSC examination, right? If I would tell you, right? So let us talk about the question here, right? The question is, you can say, which among or which of the following statements, which of the following statements about Indira Awaas Yojana Indra Awaas Yojana is are true, right? So this can be the question, such type of question can be asked to you, right? That which of the following is true about the Indra Awaas Yojana. So statement number one can be that, right? So Indra Awaas Yojana, IAY, provides for financial assistance, of upgradation of houses, only for personal living. So one statement is this, and the second statement which can be given here that, right? So IAY was, right, conceptualized for the rural India only. This is the second point, right? And the third statement can be that, right, in 2015, the Indra Awaas Yojana was renamed as Prime Minister Awaas Yojana. So these are the three statements which have been given here, right? And next, they can write that, you can say, right? So select your answer from the code given below, or using the code given below, right? So this can be written here, right? So they can mention some codes here, right? Like let's suppose the code number one is, sorry, A option is that this is one only, right? And B option can be 1 and 2 only. C option can be, we can say, right? C option can be 2 and 3 only. And fourth option can be 1, 2 and 3. 1, 2 and 3. So there can be these four options can be given there, right? So such type of questions they can ask in your examination, right? So don't think that the scheme is old now, right? So this scheme is of no use, because what is the current today, that will be the history tomorrow, right? So that is why, right? So this is important. Okay, so Nishant's answer is 1 and 2. Okay, and anybody else's answer? Okay, Aman, Asika, Harshita. Anybody else's answer? Okay, so Ashika's answer is B. Okay, okay. So beta, the correct answer of this question is D. Right, because I'm coming to discuss the next point also, because yet the discussion on the scheme is not over, right? So this scheme is still functioning, we can say, right? So such type of questions can be there, right? Question is quite simple, but there can be little confusion in your mind. Okay, so now the next point is this. All right, so the next point is that, right, the scheme was, important point, the scheme was restructured, right, restructured in 2015 and was given the name PM Awaas Yojana, right? PMAY, PM Awaas Yojana, it got that name, right? So, and one more important point here is that, right, in the year 2010, the government of India, in the year 2010, the government of India launched a mobile application, right, named we can say Awaas Soft, right, Awaas Soft, for the administration of the implementation of the scheme. Okay, for the administration of the implementation of the scheme. Okay, of the implementation of the scheme. So please bear this in mind, right? So Awaas Soft is related with the, right, Awaas Soft is related with this, right, is related with this. So this is the point now, right, which we have discussed, right? But our financials may be increased or decreased with time, right, but the scheme is same. Okay, so now the next point, the next thing which is important here, right? So far, okay, yes, Nishank, tell me, what do you want to ask?
सर एक्चुअली सर ये तो सर मतलब जो हमारा एरिया है सर वो तो मुझे लगता है कि शायद अर्बन है सर, वहाँ पे भी सर PMAY लगती है लोगों को, कुछ लोगों को देखा है सर मैंने, तो
नहीं
मतलब सर
बेटा,
रूरल है।
नहीं बेटा, एक दूसरी पीएमएवाई है, एक पीएमएवाई अर्बन है।
ओके सर, ओके, मतलब वो इंदिरा वाली से दूसरी है।
हाँ, इंदिरा इंदिरा आवास योजना का जो नेम चेंज करके इन्होंने प्राइम मिनिस्टर आवास योजना रखा था, वो रूरल के लिए है, राइट। एंड 2015 में ही गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया लॉन्च्ड अनदर प्रोग्राम फॉर द अर्बन सेक्टर आल्सो, राइट। सो दैट scheme is known as PMAYU, right?
ओके सर, ओके ओके
Yes.
सर,
So
तो वो वाली होगी, वो 2.5 लाख वाली।
yes. So basically, PMAY, Prime Minister Awaas Yojana, right, has two, we can say, right, parts, right. So one is the PMAYR, which is rural, and second is the PMAYU, which is urban. Okay. So Ministry of Rural Development is looking after the PMAYR, right, and Ministry of this urban affairs and the housing and urban affairs, right. So that is looking after the PMAYU.
सर
Okay.
अगर क्वेश्चन सर इस तरह से पूछता है यूपीएससी की विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज द सक्सेसर ऑफ इंदिरा आवास योजना, तो सर हमें सिर्फ PMAY पे जाना है ना
R,
सर?
R, yes, yes, yes.
ओके सर, ओके।
Yes. So this is also an important question. Okay? The question can be asked that which of the following is the successor of Indira Awas Yojana? Number one, PMAYR. Number two, PMAYU. Number three, both. Number four, none of these. Right? So it means हमारा आंसर रहेगा A. Right? PMAYR, rural. Okay. So this was the point, right? So about the financials also we have discussed now. Okay. So now the next thing is that implementation of the scheme is looked after by the Ministry of Rural Development. Right? Implementation of the scheme is looked after by the Ministry of Rural Development. Okay, Ministry of Rural Development. Right. So the goal or the vision of the two schemes, PMAYR and PMAYU, right? The vision of the two schemes is housing for all by 2022. So vision of the two schemes is housing for all by 2022. This is the vision of both the schemes. Okay, housing for all by 2022. Right. So it means the vision of PMAYR is housing for all by 2022 in the rural India, and the vision of PMAYU is housing for all by 2022 in the urban India. Okay, so इसको याद रखना है, ध्यान में रखना है, right? So this is the point. Right? So now there is the next point, which is we can say the restructured, right? The restructuring of the scheme in 2015, right? Restructuring of the scheme of the Indra Awaas Yojana, right? Right, Indra Awaas Yojana. So what is here about the restructuring of the scheme? As far as the restructuring of the scheme is concerned, the first point is that it's a renaming, right? So restructuring happened in 2015, right? The next is renaming of Indra Awaas Yojana as PMAYR, Prime Minister Awaas Yojana Rural, right? So that is there, right? The government envisions to provide housing for all in rural India by 2022 under this scheme, right? The government envisions to provide, right, housing for all, okay, in rural India by 2022. Okay, so this is the next important point which is here. Okay, so that's there, right? So now the next important thing is that under the scheme PMAY, under the scheme PMAYR, because we are talking about the R here, right? PMAYR, okay? So the houses are allotted. The houses are allotted, okay? The houses are allotted, we can say, or allocated, you can say, right? Allotted, okay? In the name of a woman or jointly in the name of, right? Or jointly in the name of husband and wife. Okay, husband and wife. So this point is important, right? So it means the question can be there, right? That even if there is the essay on the women empowerment, right? Women empowerment, right? Or even if there is some question related with this, right? So you can mention there that how the right Prime Minister Awaas Yojana is contributing into the empowerment of the women, right? In what respect the scheme is contributing in the empowerment of the women, right? Because the houses are allotted in the name of the women. So this is very much important point, right? Houses are allotted in the name of the women or jointly in the name of husband and wife. That is there. Okay, so the next important point is that, right, because there was the point of the respectable house, right? So which we discussed earlier, right? So we can say that in convergence with other schemes, in convergence with the other schemes of the government, okay, of the government of India, of the government of India, the houses under the houses built under the scheme are equipped with, right, are equipped with other facilities, with other facilities such as, right, with other facilities such as, number one, we can say toilet, okay, toilet, and number two, that is the LPG connection, okay, that is the LPG connection, and number three, that is the electricity connection, okay, and number four, that is the drinking water, safe drinking water, we can say, right? So these are the additional facilities which are provided in the houses which are constructed under the Indra Awaas Yojana scheme, right? In convergence with the other schemes, right? Okay. No, no, no. It is not a merger of many schemes into one. It is the convergence of the schemes, right? Means the house is built under the Indra Awaas Yojana, and and under the rest of the programs or rest of the schemes of the government, right, some other schemes of the government, right, the facilities are provided in these houses, right? So it is not the merger, right? So as far as this is concerned, right, so toilet facility is provided under the scheme, that is, we can say, Swachh Bharat Yojana, right? Swachh Bharat Yojana. Under that scheme, yes, provided at the same time, right? So we cannot say that is the convergence, because all the schemes are have their independent identity, right? So, right, merger means, uh, right, merger means, so the various schemes have been merged into one and their individual entities are no more existing, right? So that is what we mean by the merger. So don't say merger, it is convergence, right? So LPG connection is given under the, we can say, Ujjwala Yojana, right? So under this scheme, right, so LPG connection is given, right? And as far as this electricity connection, right, so electricity connection is given, right, under the scheme, that is the Saubhagya Yojana. Okay, so under the Saubhagya Yojana, this electricity connection is given, right? So similarly to drinking water, right, supply, that is given under the drinking water schemes which are there. So this is the point, right? So it means other facilities are also provided. Okay. So the next thing is that it is mandatory, right? It is mandatory that along with the construction of a house, under the Prime Minister Awaas Yojana, right? The following two are required to be constructed. The following two are, right? The following two are also constructed. Okay. The following two are also constructed. So one compulsion is that you need to construct the, one is the sanitary latrine, right? So that is must, sanitary latrine must be there in the house, right? So a house without sanitary latrine would not be eligible for assistance under the Prime Minister Awaas Yojana. Please bear this in mind, right? Right? House without sanitary latrine would not be eligible for this financial assistance under the Prime Minister Awaas Yojana, right? Please, in examination, such type of statement can be asked to you, right? So that is there, right? So this sanitary latrine is provided under the total sanitation campaign of the government, right? So that is there. And the next, which is required to be constructed there, right? So that is, we can say, the smokeless, right? Smokeless chimney, that is also required to be constructed in the house, right? Sorry, smokeless chulla, right? Smokeless chulla is also required to be constructed in the house, right? So as far as this smokeless chulla is concerned, right, so this is under the scheme, we can say, Rajiv Gandhi, right? This is under the scheme Rajiv Gandhi Vidyutikaran Yojana, right? Under the scheme Rajiv Gandhi, right, Vidyutikaran Yojana, right? So this is, these things are important, right? So it means it is mandatory for the beneficiary of the Indra Awaas Yojana. Okay, it is mandatory for the beneficiary of Indra Awaas Yojana, sorry, PMAY लिखते हैं, of PMAY to construct a sanitary latrine, and smokeless chula right? Otherwise, no financial assistance shall be provided. No financial assistance shall be provided under the scheme, right? Shall be provided under the scheme. So these are the two compulsions. Please bear this in mind, right? No will be provided under the scheme. So I am changing the color of this text so that this may remain visible. Okay, more visible. So this is the point. Okay, so please bear this in mind that this.
Sir, it means LPG connection and all other things like electricity connection, etc. They are optional kind of things.
There are some other kind of things, right? So those are provided separately, right? So smokeless chula and sanitary latrine, these are two very much important.
Okay, sir. Okay, these are
Right?
mandatory.
Yes. So now the schemes are there: SBY, Ujjwala Yojana, Saubhagya Yojana, Rajiv Gandhi Vidyutikaran Yojana. Right. So please bear these schemes also in mind. Okay. So this is there, right? And this we can say one more important point is that this Rajiv Gandhi Vidyutikaran Yojana, right, have been this Yojana has been subsumed by the Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana now, right? By Deen Dayal, right? Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana now, right? Gram Jyoti Yojana now, right? So we can say that, right? So if this name is mentioned, this is also correct, right? So, okay. So smokeless chula is
सर ये
provided
सर
under
ये तो
this.
पॉलिटिक्स वाली बात हुई ना, बस मतलब कि नाम वो चेंज कर दे रहे हैं, जो उनका लीडर है वो उसका नाम दे दे रहे हैं.
Yes. वही होता है बेटा. चलो, we cannot do anything for this. Okay. So this is the important point here. Okay. So I hope this is clear up to this point to you. Okay. So now the next scheme we are going to discuss about. Right. So the next scheme we will discuss about, that is the SSA. We mean the Sarv Siksha Abhiyan. Right. So that is that. Okay.